Thank you, John. You may have recently heard about some unusual pest infestations which happened to wheat crops in 2010 and 2011. I'm just going to go through some pictures which the farmers who experienced these infestations may have come across during those times. So I often saw reddy-orange larvae in the soil in the top few centimetres, and this is often seen around the time of cultivations, so there are reports of it getting stuck to the ploughs and the cultivators at that time. I also saw the reddy-orange eggs laid mainly on the youngest leaves, usually in rafts, as you can see lines along the leaves there. And the distinguishing saddle galls, which eventually can cause brackling of the stems. So the image on the left is what the galls look like when the leaf sheath is still over them, so it's quite hard to point out. But once you peel away the leaf sheath, you'll see the quite distinguishing gall shapes, and then an example of how it eventually snaps if you get a number of galls around the same area. The galls can then also cause node decay, and then that is also an area where secondary infection can then get in. And then if you're lucky enough, or unlucky, if you peel away the leaf sheath at the time that the larvae is within there feeding, you'll see it still sat in there in its gall. And this is all down to the saddle gall midge, which is quite similar looking to orange wheat blossom midge, but is more red distinguished colour. So as a result of these reports, a meeting was pulled together in August 2011 between ADAS, AICC, DOW, growers who'd experienced this firsthand, and also HDCA. And as a result of this meeting, we thought the best way forward was trying to find out just how widespread the pest is. So we put together a survey which was distributed to growers and agronomists. It was here last year, so thank you for everyone who did fill that in. We had 140 completed, so thank you very much. A research review was then conducted to try and pull together some information which was already out there. So thank you for Alan Dewar. And from this review, an information sheet was put together and published in spring this year, and we've got it here today as well. Some research was also conducted by ADAS, which is what Steve is going to talk to you about in a moment. So I'm just going to talk you through some of the results that were found from the survey, and thank you for all these people who helped input into that. So the map here shows the area where we got feedback back from, and the white areas show where we didn't get any surveys from, so we have no information from them. The green areas are where we had feedback back from, but there was no evidence of infestation from growers who handed them back from those regions. And the red areas say where at least one respondent from that area saw evidence of infestation. So as you can see from those that we had back, it's quite a widespread pest. You might be able to see, but there was also someone from all the way up in East Lothian. So one of the main questions which we asked on the survey was if you had any experience of the symptoms in the cereal crops in the recent years, and that was asking about the larvae found in the top few centimetres of the soil, the eggs laid in the distinguishing rafts on the leaves, the saddles and galls on the stems, and any unexplained whiteheads which not attributed to disease or head blight, and then yield variations associated with these symptoms. So of the respondents we had back, over half saw evidence of infestation, and it's this evidence that I'm going to focus on. So you can see that around 70% saw either larvae in the soil or eggs on the leaves. 42% saw galls on the stems, and around 49% saw unexplained whiteheads not attributed to disease. And of these who saw evidence of symptoms, over half experienced subsequent yield losses. We did get some interesting feedback though, as we had two growers who reported high levels of infestations. One fed back that he'd seen 100% yield loss in one of his fields. However, another grower who'd also seen similar symptoms didn't think he had any yield variation at all resulting from it. So a few unanswered questions there. Another question we asked was if the crop had been affected by the midge in a first, second or continuous wheat crop. As you can see, most cases of yield loss were seen in continuous wheat, although first and second wheat, as you can see, also suffered. So on to the review. So the review identified that the last outbreaks in the UK were from the late 60s and also in the 70s, and we also found a great deal of information from studies conducted in Europe. Although not strictly representative on current times and in the UK, this did provide us with quite a bit of information. So firstly, we did find some on the life cycle. So the larvae pupate in the soil around April, before the adult midges emerge in May. The females then lay up to around 250 eggs in the rafts on the leaves, usually on the youngest leaves on the upper and lower surface. 1 to 2 weeks later, the eggs then hatch and the larvae move down the leaves and then go down to the stem to feed under the leaf sheath. It's after this that you then start to see the distinguishing galls on the stems, usually around June, caused by their feeding, which results, the larvae sort of produce something which results in this saddle shape on the stem. And then in larvae, the larvae drop down to the soil to enter diapause before then pupating again in April. Some of the risk which came out of the review is that the main risk is stem extension coinciding with the larval feeding. So this falls into late sown winter barley and wheat, and also spring sown wheat and barley. Continuous cereals, due to the large number of larvae overwintering in the fields, and also the fact that the midge are not very strong flyers, so they can't travel far, quite similar to the wheat blossom midge. Although, as you can see from the survey, first and second wheats can also still be at risk. Heavy land also, and this is thought to be due to the ease of the larvae accessing the overwintering sites in July. And some of the control options that we saw from the studies across Europe: cultural control, a break crop, early sowing, so that the crop is past the susceptible stage before the larvae, the midge emerge. Although oats are a host, they have been found to be to tolerate the pest more. Biological control, it does have its natural predators. There are parasitic wasps which are specific to the midge. And chemical control, although there are no-label recommendations in the UK, other research has shown that dimethoate and chlorpyrifos, and recently Dow presented a paper at the AAB conference also supporting this, and deltamethrin, lambda cyhalothrin and alpha cypermethrin have also been shown to give control, and a recent Belgian study recently published has also supported this. Although application timing is difficult and very crucial, as it must be targeted before the larvae moves down underneath the leaf sheath and is covered over. So how did it behave this year? Well, this is when I pass you over to Steve, who's going to talk about the monitoring that they did.